Hello, welcome to Local Anaesthetic Podcast, your regular injection of mind-numbing local news, and this is episode 392 now. I feel like we're back after a long hiatus, but probably to the listeners we're not, because Rob and I have both been on holiday. We haven't really caught up since then. Listeners, you're going to hear Rob and I catching up live today. Rob, how are you? You look well. Good to see you, mate.
I'm not too bad, mate. Yes, I would say I feel refreshed, but the holiday is now a long distant memory, so that's not necessarily the case. I mean, it's funny because as we record this, an episode is going out this evening. Now, listeners, look, I'm going to give you a sneak behind the curtain here. A lot of the episodes were recorded in advance, so I think in the last episode there's literally no mention of a holiday whatsoever. So this is the first episode where we've actually got to talk about it. It was lovely. It was a lovely break. Lyra had a whale of a time. It was a beautiful resort. Really, I cannot fault it. It was a lovely week away. Shame wasn't longer, really. And how was yours?
Exactly the same, apart from not having the kid there. Rob, you went to Turkey, didn't you? I went to Crete, which is a Greek island, yes. For anybody who doesn't know. Yeah, exactly the same. 7 days, didn't feel long enough, really. Everything was, it was just great. But I've only been back since Tuesday. We're recording on a Friday as we speak. And I'm already, because I've been back at working and I've sort of... I'm trying to keep because I felt one of the things that we had when we were there was we did this sort of whole spa thing where you had the sauna, the steam room, and one of those joint massages that lasted for an hour. And I made the mistake of having the deep massage, which was basically like being beaten up for an hour. Is the only way I can describe it. So that was interesting.
I've had a Turkish bath before where they produce soap suds in what is like a pillowcase, and then literally like a very large Turkish man used me as a sponge really, and just threw me around a marble slab.
My massage was done by a very small woman with very small hands who was surprisingly strong, Rob. She used her elbows a lot, let's put it like that.
Interesting, yeah.
The strangest, I mean, we'll have the chance to catch up about it. Listeners really aren't really here for this, but the strangest, I did have one strange experience. So we went into the old town of Harnia. We were staying in a place in Crete called Harnia, and there's an old town there which is basically a Venetian port. It's very beautiful.
Right.
And as we were walking back to get the bus back to our hotel, there was one of the things that they have in Old Town Harnia is they have these sort of people on, like a horse-drawn carriage sort of thing for the tourists. These horses, they don't look particularly happy. But anyway, there's this guy, he's got this horse, and he's heading up this this street. It's these old sort of Venetian streets, very picturesque. And this woman is walking behind him and, directly behind him, looking smart, looking like she's maybe come from work. It's about, what time was it? It's about 5-6 o'clock. She's very smartly dressed, looks like a sort of professional woman. And she's walking behind and just out of the middle of nowhere, I mean, Rob, I almost shit my pants. Out of the middle of nowhere, she just screamed.
Right.
The loudest blood-curdling scream. Not that something had happened to her. It was directed at the man and the horse in front of her, like, ah! And it went on, and then just stopped. And then, as the guy tried to cross the road, which was he got to a busy street across the road, he sped up the horse and was looking behind him at this woman, and literally the horse was trying to get the horse to gallop to run away from her, and she started running after them. And they disappeared around the corner.
Do we know why?
Well, I wanted to know what you thought. I mean, the only thing I can think of was some sort of mental breakdown. I mean, I really have no idea what it was.
I wonder if the horse was her ex-lover, and she just seen him with a new partner.
I thought that as well. Connected to the whole Philip Schofield story, who, by the way, we're recording on Friday, the 2nd of June. So this is the episode that will go out next Friday, is it, Rob?
Yes.
Yeah, and Philip Schofield's actually given some interviews, hasn't he now, Rob? They're all over YouTube. Did you see
I believe so, yeah.
But the reason I'm mentioning this, I don't really want to get into that possible legal hot water, is that I just had the strange... I mean, Rob and I were meant to record today at 1 o'clock. We were actually recording much later than that because I got stuck in home base. We'd popped down there, Rob. It's a long story. I'm not going to go into it. It was related to buying a plant.
Right.
It was rather large and very hard to fit in the car. And as I was trying to sort out the car to try and put this thing in, and I turned round and my girlfriend was having a conversation with an older gentleman. How old would I say he was? Late 60s easily. And he ended up, so the long and the short of it, Rob, he ended up helping us put this thing in the car. Brenda, my partner, had to drive home on her own because it was impossible for me to fit in the car, and he offered to drive me home and then helped us unload it. So lovely man, and what a lovely story. But throughout all of this, the things that he was talking about, so what an amazing thing just to offer to do that to somebody, by the way.
Yeah.
But we are still unclear to what extent this man was a fantasist. Rob, I can only describe him as literally like something out the Far Show.
Right.
He says that he works as a cameraman. He's been doing it for 50 years, and basically he is the cameraman, the main cameraman on Good Morning Britain, This Morning, all of that. That's what he does. But he's done lots of things.
It's possible.
He claimed he lived in a house that had a large tennis court, but he didn't use it and didn't really see the point in it.
Right.
It was just, there was something about it where you weren't ever quite sure if you could believe exactly what he was saying. When I was on my own with him in the car, I did ask him about all the people on Good Morning Britain and all the people on This Morning, and some of what he said sounded quite interesting. He said that, for example, Piers Morgan actually is very quiet when he's not on camera and doesn't really talk to anybody and keeps himself to himself. He said some things about Eamon Holmes, which... we can, but when I talked to him about Rich and Judy, I'm not sure he knew who Richard was, which, considering he worked on the programme, there was just a lot of it, Rob, that, when somebody's constantly boasting in a way about everything, it was just, none of it added up, Rob.
Bizarre.
I got the sense he was a very lonely, like all the people in home base seemed to know him. It was obviously went there quite regularly.
Right.
He would sort of chat to random strangers in a somewhat inappropriate way. I just got the feeling he was quite lonely, and I don't know whether anything that he told me was actually true. He also now knows my address.
That's concerning, Alex, I'll be honest.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, he could be sending Eamon Holmes around at any minute to, I don't know, kick your teeth in or something.
What I would say is, if you are listening, or you are connected to this individual, he was a genuinely lovely man. It was such a bizarre encounter that I just didn't know really what to make of it. Do you think a cameraman earns enough money to live in the sort of house he was talking about, with a garden the size of a football pitch and a tennis court?
How do I put this? No. That's how I put it. Yeah, no. I don't think that is the case. I think you could live comfortably in London. I'm not sure you could live in what sounds like quite a sedate private residence.
Rob, yeah, one of the reasons I love you, and I do genuinely love you, Rob, is that you have a very good way with words. What was it? Quite a sedate... What did you say? Quite a sedate...
Quite a sedate private residence.
Yeah, that's really quite beautiful. Yeah. I want to petition that for the episode title. Rob, you said there's some news. We're already deep into the podcast.
Yeah, I'm going to... after that story, I'm going to split the news up. But the first thing I wanted to feature is we've had an update from my mate Pete, who's very kindly sent us another email as he works his way through the back catalogue. And the last one made us laugh so much I wanted to feature it. It is slightly lengthy, but again, I do want to include it. Also, I'm delighted to see that Pete's team and just huge congratulations to Luton for winning promotion to the Premiership. It's their first time in the Premier League, and hopefully they manage to stay up. Anyway, he says, "Hi Rob and Alex, I hope you're both well. I'm still loving the podcast as I approach episode 300 in the back catalogue. Although time-wise, I'm still pre-COVID. I'm amazed that episode 300 is pre-COVID.
Yeah, I guess it is. That's incredible, Rob.
Yeah, I suppose it would be. Story-wise, a newspaper caught my eye last week as I stood in custody with a prisoner. Oh, yeah, of course, because he's a police officer. I was about to say then. From the front page of the Metro on the 12th about big cats. So I think he's included that at the bottom of the story, has he? No. Okay. In addition to that, here's my list of favourite stories, discussions from the past 40 episodes. Hopefully they bring you back some fond memories for you. So from episode 271, the refugee mother slipped on a shallot whilst looking at constipation aids.
God, yes. Yeah.
Episode 272, Britain jailed over plot to abandon American with dementia in UK. So apparently American pensioners left face down in the UK countryside to get appropriate medical care, even though no authorities knew who he was.
I remember that story. Rob.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. It's very. I did not know. I would have told you that was back in, I don't know, pre-episode 200. I mean, that feels like a long time ago.
Yeah, okay. Episode 273, a woman tells character she'd rather die than lose her beloved fireplace.
I don't remember.
Which I remember this, which then gave birth to another game show, which was the forced home modifications with Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen and Roland Rat.
That was my idea. Yes.
Yeah, that was episode 274. Rob sings a couple of lines from the debut single "Trains in Pain," which was, if you remember, the man whose train set got smashed up.
Yes.
Episode 284, all around great episode. This is Pete's words. Squirrels given wheels. No idea. Medical expert advisor.
Yeah, those are those squirrels. Those are those squirrels that like had some sort of medical issue, couldn't walk, and they sort of fitted wheels to them so they could get around. Or something.
Okay, yeah, okay. Also, medical expert advisor women against putting chocolate up their vaginas.
Yes.
Or vacuuming periods away. Yes. And Shalvo de Silva's prison escape dressed as teenage daughter. Oh yes, I remember that. And we just finished on this one. Episode 288, new celebrity reality show idea, which has really persisted, by the way. This is where we first pitched Noel's Pontin's Challenge.
Yes, that should be a thing, Noel's Pontin's Challenge. It absolutely should.
And the contestants include Dave Benson Phillips, Pat Sharp, Timmy Mallet, Roland Rat, Tommy Boyd, Neil Buchanan, Paul Chuckle, John Craven, but his repressed rage beats Mr. Blobby to death. Don't remember that. And of course, everyone's favourite, Bodger and Badger.
And of course, Philip Schofield.
Yes, now it would be Philip Schofield. He was also very disappointed to say that Alex Winman's show Blow My Recorder was cancelled. Hopefully it can be resurrected for the 400th episode. Let's say it isn't. But thank you, Pete. We always appreciate your correspondence.
It's just lovely to hear somebody going through and just to bring back all those memories, Rob. And if you're enjoying listening to all the episodes of LA Podcast, please do donate to this podcast. Otherwise, Rob and I will never be able to go on holiday again.
Yep. No,
seriously, your donations didn't pay for a holiday. They actually, all your donations do, and this is absolutely God's honest truth, they sit in a PayPal account dedicated to this podcast and that go to the running of this podcast and everything else like that. We don't use it for anything else.
Yeah,
as far as I'm aware, unless Rob's siphoning it away. But
no, the money's still there, and I can prove it.
There's the top right, the PayPal button in the top right-hand corner of our website, LAPodcast.net. You can set up a one-time donation or rolling donation, but please, please, please do. Because do you know what, people? Hosting a podcast is fucking expensive. But anyway.
True story.
Was there any other news, Rob? Because we're fucking 15 minutes into this.
No, Alex, I'll save the other news for the next episode.
Oh, okay. We'll do that next week then. All right. Thank you, Rob. Because I want to get... Rob, back in the year 2001, I believe it was, I kept 2 newspapers, real hard copy newspapers, in the hope that one day they may be worth something. I don't know if I've still got them. I hope I do. I think they're in my attic somewhere. The first paper I kept was the Times of London's reporting on the day after, on September the 12th, 2001, of its reporting of the September the 11th attacks.
I have that exact paper.
Do you? That's really weird, Rob.
Yeah.
When did we meet?
It would have been after that. It would have been, we didn't meet to 2008.
Rob, so hang on a second. Do you cause that's the only paper, do you collect other papers? This is something I don't know about.
I do collect papers from major world events. I've got the Millennium. I've got 2000. I've got 9/11. I've got Obama being voted for president, elected as president. I've also got when Manchester United won the treble. I've got the Queen's death. I've got the Queen's coronation. Yeah,
right. Because when I helped you move,
yes,
and you had all those boxes. Yeah. I just thought that was packing paper.
I mean, I did ask you at the time where you got the newspaper from, and you said I just found it on the floor. That was the stuff we dumped afterwards. Yeah, right. I'm just going to have to check the recycling.
I'm assuming they're worthless. I mean, I don't know. Do you?
I think they are. Yeah, I'd be very surprised. I mean, I don't know. I mean, so to give you an example, the ones that from the Millennium, actually, I bought from the Millennium Dome when we went there back in 1999. They actually had them packaged up. No, if it can't be from 1999, must have been the Millennium. So I haven't opened them. They're still in their sealed like cellophane.
I just wanted to say to anybody who's maybe listening to for the first time or is a relatively new listener, and this podcast is about strange and funny news stories. We will get there. But there is a direct connection. So the other paper I have, Rob, which I believe is from the same period of time, is The Sun's, I think, most famous ever headline, which is Swan Bake, where they, of course, reported on what they said was a group of asylum seekers who were found in Hyde Park standing next to a river barbecuing a swan.
It's a classic.
Because they were, it was a classic. It was sort of an anti-immigration story talking about our migrants coming over here, killing our birds and eating them. And I think a lot of it was, in the end, made up. I don't know. But anyway, it's a very, very famous story. But I've got that original. And it is and to be honest, I do wonder if that's where, from my side of this anyway, Rob, this podcast comes from. Because if you remember when we met and we started talking about doing a podcast and I talked about the New Shopper, I think a lot of it came from how much that story impacted on me, just the bizarreness of it and how much I loved it.
What I think as well is, I think kind of there's right-wing tendencies as well. I mean, we've obviously covered Andy Parks, who was editor at the time when we started this podcast, and I wonder whether there are similar stories that he may have published. I'm not saying that Andy Parks makes up immigration stories or has ever done that, but he had the term Britain's angriest hack for good reason.
That's true. So, Rob, I'm mentioning Swan Bake because I now have a story from secruce.com, which is in New York, which is a large state. So we're talking about Manhattan, we're talking about more like New York State. Rob, I've got a great story here. It's from June the 1st, 2023. No journalist listed. No, there is, sorry, Riley Kirk. You can email him. And Darian Stevenson. Headline, Faye, the mama swan taken from Manlius Pond was eaten on Memorial Day. Now, the headline doesn't really do it justice. Swan Bake would have been better, guys. I'm going to tell you that now. So, Rob, this takes place, this story in Manlius, New York. A mother swan, Rob, taken from Manlius, was killed during the weekend and eaten on Memorial Day, including to a source familiar with the investigation. Now, this is the local version of the story.
Okay.
But I'm afraid, Rob, I'm going to have to do the dirty here and go to the Daily Mail's version, because what the Daily Mail are good at doing is squeezing all the juice out of a story and getting, the salient details, let's be honest.
I hate to admit it, but yes, I mean, it's amazing how much column inches they can get out of virtually nothing.
So here it is, Rob. 3 teens have been arrested after capturing a beloved mother swan and allegedly eating her on Memorial Day, leaving her 4 babies without a mother. Do you see the differences with the way those 2 newspapers started the story?
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's be fair, which one grabs you more? The swan, Faye, and her 4 babies were kidnapped from Manlius Swan Pond in Manlius, New York on Saturday. They were last seen by a village employee who was tending to flowers in the area. Eman Hussain, 18, of Syracuse, was arrested in connection with Faye's killing, along with a 16-year-old and a 17-year-old, Manlius Police Sergeant Ken Hatter said. Fortunately, the family did not include the swan's 4 babies, known as cygnets, as part of their meal. On Tuesday, police said all 4 baby swans have been found and are currently in the care of a biologist who has raised Faye since 2007. Oh. So, sort of staying in the family.
Yeah.
Hassan and the other teens have been charged with felony counts of grand larceny and mischief, as well as misdemeanor counts of conspiracy and criminal trespass. Now, in a press conference Wednesday morning, Manlius Police said the suspects hopped the fence in the middle of the night. Now, what you've got to understand is Faye was famous in the area. She is like a beloved animal.
Okay.
She is like a mascot. She means the world to the residents.
Okay, fair enough.
This guy allegedly hopped the fence in the middle of the night, captured Faye, held her down, killed her. The teens allegedly killed Faye at the pond and then brought her home to eat with family and friends.
Shocking.
Despite consuming the swan, the family and friends of the suspect told police they did not know it was a swan, but thought it was a very large duck, and also were not aware that it was a wild animal.
Alex, I hate to say this, and I know that the queen may be turning in a grave when I say this, but if I was offered a swan...
Andrew's innocent? Sorry.
No, there's no chance of that. If I was offered swan, I would probably would eat it. Also, if I'm completely on it, I would see it as some sort of delicacy as well. Because swan, I mean, I don't understand why we don't eat swan. It seems like a strange thing not to eat. I mean, if we eat duck, do we eat goose? Yes, of course we eat goose. Why not swan?
I had foie gras for lunch, Rob.
Yeah, of course. As is your want, Alex. But seriously, why don't we eat swan? We eat pigeon, for fuck's sake.
Had pigeon last night. Yeah,
we eat partridges. We eat, I'm sure people who've eaten blackbirds, robins. You know, I mean, what's lovelier than a nice deep fried robin on top of your Christmas pudding? I mean, you know.
Yeah, I ate a tit last week. Blue tit.
Well, let's say less about that, obviously.
The teens were not planning on eating the cygnets, who are the baby birds, but told police they intended on raising them as pets. Tips received after a press release helped the police find 2 of the babies at a business in Shop City Plaza at the town of Salina. After obtaining search warrants, police found the other 2 located at a home in the city of Syracuse. 2 of the suspects, one of which was an employee of Shop City Plaza, turned himself in. 2 juveniles were released to their parents on appearance tickets, and Hussein was taken to a centralised arraignment to await his arraignment. Anyway, blah. So the co-owner of Black Friday bins at 139 Shop City Plaza said on Facebook Tuesday night that 2 of the 4 stolen baby swans were in their store, but the store thought the swans were ducks or geese.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Police said the teens didn't necessarily show remorse, in quotes, but probably regret doing what they did.
Sorry, didn't necessarily show remorse. I mean, are you either show remorse or you don't?
Well, the picture of this guy being walked away from the police station, he's grinning broadly. I'm not seeing much remorse there. But the teens apparently did not know, Rob, that the swan was considered a mascot of the village. They had no idea of the significance the swans had on this community.
Okay.
The police said Hussein had a hunting licence. As of now, they have no knowledge of any prior illegal activity. The suspects were not lacking in food, but hunting as an activity. So they just went out there, Rob, looking for a swan.
Right, fine.
Manny, who I believe is Faye's mate, because you know Rob Swan's mate for life, and his lifetime mate has been murdered. He will be removed from the pond, as there is a chance he may become combative after losing his mates.
Well, you would do, Alex.
Wouldn't want to have to put him down, Rob, and sort of strangle him to death. That would be unfair.
Or take a shotgun to him, that kind of thing.
Yeah. The 4 cygnets will grow up, and hopefully 2 will mate and go back to what it used to be. Neighbours are mourning the loss of the iconic swan couple, known as the manliest mascot. They are now placing memorials, Rob, around the town. The lineage of swans has been around for over 100 years. They were originally donated to the village along with the pond in 1905. The mayor said the town plans to continue the tradition of hosting swans, but obviously it was quite upsetting because this 100-year-old lineage has been cut short. Some residents are pushing to end the tradition and have signed a petition online to stop the practice of hosting swans, citing another incident in the past that caused the death of a swan. They haven't said what that is, Rob, but the mind boggles.
So, to some extent, I think the town needs to take some responsibility for this, because they are obviously attracting swans to the town, and by doing so, they're obviously inviting them to their death.
Well, it seems that way. The mayor disagrees. He says the swan is an emblem of the town, and the majority of the town appreciates the beauty of them. There is another petition, Rob, called Justice for Faye, which is circulating online, and it's calling for the harshest possible penalties for the subject.
Right.
Wouldn't the harshest possible penalty be the death penalty?
I was thinking that in the US. I mean, it depends on the state, I think. But I'm not sure. I'm going to put on record, Alex. I'm not sure that killing and eating a swan justifies being put to death.
I'm not sure, Rob, if you've ever heard. There's a theory out there, Rob, called. I've come across it a few times. I don't know who started it. It's called like the graduation of killing hypothesis. Have you come
I've heard
across
about this, Alex? Yes.
Yeah. And this petition states the highest charges possible need to be sought. Who's to say they wouldn't do this to a human being if they did this to an innocent animal that they had no right to go and take and kill and eat? To protect the swans and prevent such tragedies, the mayor said he's installing cameras and coming up with a safety plan. He doesn't say what that is. What's that safety plan, Rob? What's it going to be? Swan marshals.
I think a pack of wild dogs.
Well, apparently the town plans, Rob, to have eyes on the pond at all times. So maybe they're just going to employ some unfortunate person to sit and stare at the pond.
Alex, it's gonna be some old man in a really tatty uniform in a deck chair just watching swans 24/7, isn't it? You know, and what'll happen is they'll fall asleep. A swan gets murdered, and then the town's going to blame him and probably put him to death.
Sam214 USA says, "This is so sad, makes me want to cry."
Right.
Rembrandt Varral says, "Evil dirtbag kids." I like that as an episode title.
Yeah, Evil Dirtbag Kids is a great episode.
Evil Dirtbag Kids should be a new cartoon on Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
Are you watching Evil Dirtbag Kids right now? Just Passing Through says, "They thought it was a duck. Like, that makes it any better. Let's keep that downward spiral going, America."
I don't know much about this particular town. Is there not much going on, Alex? Is this big news? This is obviously big news for them, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Is this the amount of crime they've had? Is this all the crime they've had in the last 10 years?
Rob, somebody stole and ate a beloved swan. Okay? Just think about that.
Yeah, you're right, Alex. I'm sorry.
Right, look. Before we hand over to Rob, I just want to... This is a bit of a deep cut, Rob. It's from action5news.com. It's only small. But we've just gone from swans to ducks. And this reference... Now, I don't know the general demographic of our listeners. This might pass over the heads of a lot of them, depending on their age. But if you are Rob and I's age, I'm not even sure. I'm hoping Rob is younger than me. How are you? 5 years younger than me, or 3 years? 3 years.
3 years.
No.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Deputies accuse man of using Nintendo Duck Hunt pistol to rob a business.
Yeah, I do get I know what you're talking about. I get the reference. Right,
so listeners, when Rob and I were growing up and consoles were still really at their quite nascent stage, there was the original Nintendo system. You could buy this peripheral for it, which was like a gun, and it connected by a wire, and there were games you could play where you would shoot the gun at the TV. What was that other one? It was called Operation something. There was that one. Now, what was it called? The one, it's like where you were in the army and you were shooting people behind like palm trees and shit. That was fucking brilliant.
I'm not sure that is. That's beyond me, that one.
Right, so this is in Charlotte. A man in North Carolina was arrested after being accused of using a pistol-shaped controller from the 1980s game Duck Hunt. By the way, Duck Hunt, listeners, you shot ducks. Yeah. To rob a business. Deputies said 25-year-old David Joseph D'Alessandro allegedly robbed a convenience store in the Charlotte area around 5:45 p.m. He was wearing a mask, wig, a hooded sweatshirt, and he showed the clerk the fake gun, which had been painted, and took $300 from the register. And I'm looking at it, and I guess, yes, it is the Duck Hunt pistol, but it's been painted rather well, and you would just think that's a gun.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the story.
Well, Alex, it's nice to know that he's utilised items around his home for criminal endeavours, really.
Okay, Rob, you got a story for us there.
Yes. So my first story is from the Daily Mirror by Julia Banim, who is the audience writer. It is from the 23rd of April. The headline is Children given crayons at museum scribble over 250-year-old statue.
Yeah, kids and crayons. I mean, I've never asked you, has Lyra done anything like that yet? I mean, I know you keep her
deface the statue.
No, just more in the house. Like
because she is a toddler, we do supervise her quite a lot. I mean, it does pain me that our sofa, we bought a new sofa last year and it's just turned 1 year old, and already we're at the point where we realise it's going to have to get professionally cleaned. There is pen on the sofa, which I'll be honest, Alex, makes me cry every day. Especially when I realise how much it costs.
Piss?
Yes, there will be piss somewhere on the sofa as well, which we've had to clean.
Shit?
Probably, yes. No, not probably, yes. No, there has been. Yeah, vomit, absolutely. I mean, you'd be astonished at the liquids that have come in contact with that sofa.
I sat on that couch.
Yeah, I know. And if you saw me, I was directing you to certain points, and that was purely for my own pleasure. Sorry about that.
Rob, if if you kind of like were in the middle of doing something and Lara was unsupervised and Sarah was in the middle of doing something, just it's that brief moment and you came into a room and you saw her holding some of the trains from your train set and sort of just smashing them against a table, like, just bashing them until they broke. Can you just give me your reaction, please? And the listeners.
Alex, I'm going to be completely honest with you. No. The reason being is because I don't want it to be part of a criminal case. Genuine story the other day, Alex. Sarah has just come back from a hen do where she was in Malta for the weekend. So it was just me and Lyra.
Can I just say something about that, Rob? Can I just say something? One of my things, we're not doing Room 101, but if I was on Room 101 back when it was good and not like a panel show,
yeah,
I would be taking that kind of, not hen dos, it's not about that. It's people who say, and I don't know if Sarah did this, so I apologise in advance if she did do this. But there's something about saying I'm having a hen do in a foreign country, which just I like, and then expects people to like. These things are expensive, and then you like to say I'm having it in Malta. Like it just feels very like
it's quite exclusionary. Yeah, I won't go into detail, but I mean it wasn't. Let's put it this way: it wasn't. I wouldn't say whose hen do it was, but basically it wasn't their choice. It was a sibling who basically chose for them all to go away. By the way, it's one of two.
Oh.
The second part is taking place in 2 weeks' time.
No. Can I just say?
No, next week. Sorry,
I feel bad because some of our listeners will have no doubt arranged to have an event like that abroad, and that was very judgmental of me. I understand that. I'm just saying that I'm just saying you know what I'm saying. It's just what am I saying, Rob?
You said enough, Alex. You said enough. Well, look, the reason I mention that is because we were at home. I was in the process of preparing some dinner for Lyra in the kitchen. I must have been the best part of about 5 minutes. And in that time, 2 weeks ago, we'd been to the garden centre and bought a load of potted plants and came back and realised that she'd had systematically taken the heads off every single one of those plants.
And your reaction?
I wasn't best pleased because obviously these plants are in bloom. They were all over the floor, and
they cost money.
Yes, I mean they weren't particularly expensive, but I mean it's a worrying trait, Alex. We've already talked about the graduation theory. First it's plants, then it's small rodents, and then it goes from there. So hopefully it's. And
if it was the train set, would you cry or would you go no? Would it be that?
Again, I mean, there is a reason the train shot isn't on the bed. It's actually currently sat up in a very high shelf within the wardrobe that she has literally no chance of getting to, and that is intentional.
I'll tell you something though, Rob. Children grow; they get taller.
Well, unless she grows to 7 foot, Alex, she hasn't got a chance. I mean, although obviously that we do have chairs. Anyway, look, back to this museum. So it is believed that children, given crayons as part of a museum activity pack, decided to add their own personal touches to a statue of historic significance, scribbling all over it. Dismaying photos show the blue crayons scribbled all over the faces, limbs and torso of the beautiful 230-year-old statue, which depicts the Roman Neaidi Sabrina? I don't know who that is. The statue, which was sculptured by John Baker, is located in the grounds of Croom Court, a striking mid-18th century neo-Palladian mansion situated amid extensive landscape parkland in South Worcestershire. It sounds beautiful.
A very good episode title, Rob.
A mid-18th century neo-Palladian mansion situated amid extensive landscape parkland in South Worcestershire. It absolutely is, Alex. I hate to say it.
Might be our longest. I enjoyed that. I really did.
It's understood that the crayons were given out to families in activity packs distributed over the Easter period, and that a memorial to renowned gardener and landscape architect Lancelot Capability Brown was also defaced on April 8th. In a statement shared by the Museums Association, National Trust spokesman said, "We were dismayed that this has happened. The team at Coombe were understandably upset at the discovery." The incident has required time and consultation of conservators, as well as of garden and outdoor managers who cleaned the statue and memorial. Fortunately, the property was able to remove the crayon from the statues without the help of external cleaners or expensive specialist materials. It's understood that the trials will be conducted in order to figure out Trials, sorry. Trials will be conducted in order to figure out the best methods for restoring the memorial of Capability Brown, with efforts still to be ongoing. So that's pretty much it, Alex. I just find it funny that this place is giving out crayons.
Art is a living, breathing thing, and I wonder if they should have just left it as it was. I wonder what the original artist would have thought, had they known. Obviously, the original artist wouldn't have even known what a crayon was, and a crayon would have blown their mind.
Yeah, absolutely, quite possibly. Yeah, I imagine that whoever John Bacon is would have maybe found it. I imagine he would have given a wry smile, Alex. If anything else,
was he related to Francis Bacon? Maybe.
I mean, there's actually probably a possibility that he is. Yes.
Right.
Not funny, but probably true.
Okay, Rob. It's time for our listener story of the week. What you got and who's it from?
So this week it is from Khyber, and it's taken from the LBC website. The story is bang up to date, so it's from the 30th of May by Chris Samuel. Now, there is a character in this story that's been the subject of many false truths, I'm going to say it, that originate on this podcast. So it's about Benedict Cumberbatch.
Because I saved a story about Benedict Cumberbatch because I know that you've got this thing about him, and somebody broke into his house, so it's got or tried to.
Unfortunately, that is the story. Yeah, that is the story.
Yeah, but I'd like to hear it again because it had a lot of good details in it.
It is the reason we're mentioning. Story. Yeah,
Rob once read out a story on it was an April Fool's story, quite clearly, about somebody making a chocolate statue out of Benedict Cumberbatch. He didn't realise it was April Fool's, and he rather embarrassed himself. So.
Yeah, well, again, I know we're in an age of post-truth, but I mean that is just a lie. And if anyone wants to see the actual statue of Chocolate Benedict, as I like to call him, please go to our website and our Facebook page, where you'll see a picture, because I actually came face to face and licked him.
After you read that story, you commissioned somebody to make that statue to save face, and that's what a petty man you are.
Well, it doesn't matter, Alex, because then it still exists. There go. Oh, it's still true. So Benedict Cumberbatch and family were left fearing for their lives when the knife-wielding chef attacked their North London home. Something about this phrase...
a comedy podcast, people fearing for their lives. It's not amusing.
It's not, Alex. But I think it's something about the phrase knife-wielding chef.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
because what I could work out about this story is why he had it in for them anyway. Okay,
it gets more bizarre as it goes through. So Mr. Cumberbatch, 46, was at home with his wife Sophie Hunter, 45, and their 3 children when 35-year-old Jack Bizzle kicked through the front garden iron gate and screamed abuse, shouting, "I know you've moved here, I hope it burns down." So terrifying. We're not making light of that in any way. However, it is bizarre what he did. So Bizzle, who was formerly a chef de partie, I don't know what that means, at the 5-star Beaumont Hotel for 2 periods between 2017 and 2020, then pulled up a plant and threw it at the garden wall before spitting on the intercom and prizing it loose with a fish knife.
Yeah.
As you do, Alex, you break someone's house, you put up a plant, you spit on the intercom, and then you prize it loose with a fish knife. So he fled the scene, but was arrested after DNA evidence was found on the intercom.
That'd be the spit.
A close... Yeah, exactly, yeah. A source
they got that DNA tested quickly, didn't they? I mean, bloody hell, when you're rich, I mean, my God. Anyway.
Well, I suppose, if police attended as soon as possible, if they can get it into an evidence bag, you're good to go, Alex. Yeah, Pete told me. So a source close to the Cumberbatch family told the outlet, naturally, all of our family were absolutely terrified and thought this guy was going to get in and hurt them. Thankfully, he didn't. Now, just to skip through the story, it does get a bit more bizarre. So,
can I just say, judging... Sorry, Rob, to interrupt.
Sorry?
If we can just speculate for a moment on how terrified Cumberbatch would have been, because we know he's a easily frightened man at the best of times. I've heard that about him. Very very sensitive, sort of a bit of a wimp.
Right.
I'm just thinking that presumably there were certain elements of Benedict, whatever you say his name. How do you say it? Benedict Cumberbatch.
Benedict,
Cumberbatch. There were elements of him that day, Rob, that were indeed chocolate, I can only assume. I'm thinking of the underwear department.
Right. Possibly. Sure.
I'm saying he shat himself, Rob, in fear.
Right. Okay. Oh, with you. Right. Sorry, Alex. I lost you for a second there. Yes, it's possible.
I'm talking about diarrhea, Rob, which often is brown in consistency and rather like chocolate.
Yes, Alex. I got that. Thank you. So anyway, Bissell admitted criminal damage at Wood Green Crankle earlier this month and was given a £250 fine and a 3-year restraining order, which bans him from going anywhere near the family and the area they live in. The prosecution told the court that before the attack, Bissell had purchased 2 packs of pita bread from a nearby shop and told the shopkeeper he was going to break into the Sherlock star's home and burn it down.
Which is a great way of getting your alibi right at the beginning.
Part of me, Alex, really wants to have to sort of simulate the conversation between Mr. Bissell and the shopkeeper, because at what point during the pita bread transaction, you go around there, you buy the pita breads. At what point where
I'll be the shopkeeper, right? So.
Okay. All right, mate. Just the pita bread, please.
Yeah. Anything else?
No. One other thing. Benedict Cumberbatch?
Not heard of him.
The guy from Sherlock.
Right.
Yeah. He's moving to the area. I'm going to burn his house down. Okay,
so that'll be £2.90.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, mate. Bye.
That's how it went, Rob.
That's how it went. No further interest in why this man was first of all going to burn Benedict Cumberbatch's house down, or why he was buying 2 packs of pita bread.
What was the pita bread about? What did he use those for? Maybe he was planning on slapping. When he got into the house, he was going to slap Cumberbatch around his chops with the pita bread and humiliate him.
Quite possibly. I mean, it's quite bizarre, Alex.
Maybe this guy also fell for the April Fool's story about the chocolate Benedict Cumberbatch and was upset.
Quite possibly.
You admit it wasn't April Fool's. Yes, thank you. No further questions, Your Honour.
Okay. Also, I was about to say he was photographed apparently shirtless during protests in central London against military intervention in Syria. Interesting. Not Benedict Cumberbatch, by the way, the defendant here.
Was Benedict Cumberbatch a big supporter of military intervention in Syria? Is that where the beef comes from?
Quite possible. I mean, I don't think he's ever gone public on it, but I imagine, to his close friends and family, I think that's the only thing he talks about.
Bomb the shit out of it. I've heard him say it before.
Yeah, we all have, Alex, in close circles.
Yeah.
Is that right? Is that slander? Serious question.
Let the lawyers figure it out, mate. That brings us to the end of this brilliant episode of LA Podcast, episode 392. We're going to be back in a week's time with episode 393. I can count. There we go. And we look very much forward to that. Listen, look, there's obviously all of these episodes for you to get through and listen to, but if you want to be a supporter of this podcast, we did have a Patreon going for a while. We've disbanded that, mainly due to the cost of living crisis, but there are all these episodes of LA Podcast and Extra Jab, which was our sort of sister podcast, which we love doing. If you want to get access to those and just help us out, help out the podcast, help support it, help pay our monthly fees just to host it and everything else that goes with it, please go to our website, like I said, lapodcast.net. There's a PayPal button from there, and the rest is self-explanatory. We would really appreciate that. But look, we appreciate you listening. We appreciate people like Pete working his way through the back catalogue. We appreciate people like Kaiba, who just consistently send us brilliant stories. And are basically, Kaiba, as I've said, Kaiba, Steve, and a few others really are, they're not paid employees, Rob, but they are employees without any rights. Let's put it like that.
Yeah. That's fair to say.
See you next week, everybody. God bless.
And keep it local.